The idea here is to get the square root by itself. So what should we do to both sides of the equation? We're going to be adding 1 to both sides of the equation. And now that we have the square root by itself, we can square both sides to get rid of it. Okay, so the square root goes away, and we're left with the right-hand side being 2x plus 1 times 2x plus 1. So 2 times 2 is how much? 4x times x, x squared. 2x times 1, 2x, plus another 2x, so that's going to be 4x. And then 1 times 1, positive 1. How do we solve this equation? Well, let's move everything to one side of the equation. I'm going to move everything to the right-hand side. So I need to get rid of this. So add x to both sides. So 4x plus x is how much? 5x. Let's subtract 10 from both sides. So 1 minus 10 is how much? Negative 9. Okay, so I moved everything to the right-hand side because there's a 0 on the left-hand side. And how do we solve this quadratic? So we're going to try to factor. So we need two numbers that multiply to negative 36 because 4 times negative 9 is negative 36. And we need them to add to 5. So what are those two numbers? So those two numbers, after some trial and error, you're going to get 9 and negative 4. Okay, let's go ahead and factor. So what can I pull out of these two terms? So I can pull out an x, because x evenly goes into this and this. So we have x times how much is 4x squared? X times 4x, and then x times how much is 9? X. X times 9 is 9x. And then I can factor out a negative 1 here, because there's a negative sign here. There's nothing else that goes into both 4x and 9. So negative 1 times 4x is negative 4x, and then negative 1 times 9 is negative 9. And since this is the same thing as this, we're going to get 0 is equal to x minus 1 times this, so 4x plus 9. So in order for this to be 0, either this is 0 or this is 0. When this is 0, x minus 1 is equal to 0, which means x is equal to 1. How about when this is 0? So 4x plus 9 equals 0. How do we get x? So we're going to subtract 9 from both sides and divide by 4. So x is going to be equal to negative 9 over 4. Okay, so are these our two answers? Well, we have to go back and check. So I'm going to plug these back into the original equation. So we're going to get square root of negative, so x changes to 1, plus 10 minus 1 is equal to 2 times 1. Is this equation true? So let's see. Negative 1 plus 10 is how much? It's going to be 9. 2 times 1, 2, square root of 9, 3. Is 3 minus 1, 2? Yes, so that means 1's good. Let's try 9/4. Let's try negative 9/4. Okay, so we're going to get square root of negative 9 over 4 plus 10 minus 1. Is this going to be equal to 2 times negative 9 over 4? So this simplifies as square root negative 9/4 is just 9/4 plus 10. And then this times this, well, that's going to be, so I can take out 2 here and divide out 2 here. So that should be negative 9/2. And then I need to get a common denominator here. So 9 over 4 plus 40 over 4. Okay. And so this is going to be square root 49 over 4. Is this going to be equal to negative 9/2? So square root of 49 is 7, square root of 4 is 2. Is this equation true? No. So this is actually not a solution. which means that x plus 1, that's our only answer here. The goal here is to get the square root by itself. So what should we do to both sides of the equation? We should add 3. So let's go ahead and do that. So the right-hand side becomes how much? 2x plus 3. And now that we have the square root by itself, we can square both sides. So let's go ahead and do that. So squaring both sides gets rid of the square root, so we're left with 15x plus 10 is equal to this squared. And let's go ahead and expand this. So 2x times 2x, 4x squared, plus 2x times 3 is how many x? 6x, plus another 6x here, so 12x, plus 3 times 3, which is how much? 9. Okay, and now we're going to move everything to one side of the equation. So I'm going to subtract 15x from both sides, and that's going to be how many x? Minus 3x, and then subtract 10 from both sides. So we've got a quadratic, and now we can use the quadratic formula. So it's going to be, the quadratic formula is going to be negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So this is your a, this number is your b, this number is your c. So we're going to change a, b, c here to these numbers. So negative b, negative 3 plus or minus square root of b squared. So b was how much again? So b squared minus 4 times a, which is how much? 4 times c, which is how much? Negative 1 over 2a. So 2 times 4. Okay. And negative 3, well, that's just 3 plus or minus square root of 9. So this becomes negative 16. So minus negative 16, so it's plus 16 over 2 times 4, which is how much? 8. So 3 plus or minus, this is square root of 25, which is just how much? 5 over 8. So we're going to get 3 plus 5 over 8 and 3 minus 5 over 8. So 3 plus 5 is how much? 8 divided by 8 is 1. So this is one solution. And then 3 minus 5 is how much? Negative 2 divided by 8. What's negative 2 over 8 simplified? It's going to be negative 1 over 4. So these are your two answers. But let's go ahead and plug it back into these two equations to make sure that they work. So we're going to get negative 15 times 1 plus 10 minus 3 is equal to 2 times 1. And then we're going to get 15 times negative 1 over 4 plus 10 minus 3 is going to be equal to 2 times negative 1 over 4. Sometimes when we solve these equations and plug these back in, it may not give us a true statement. So I'm going to let you all double check in the comments and see if these equations still hold. How do we get rid of the parentheses here? Well, I'm going to raise both sides of the equation to the power of 3 halves. So 3 halves is the reciprocal of 2/3. Why am I raising it to the power of 3 halves? Well, because the left-hand side is going to become 5x plus 1. And the right-hand side is going to be how much? So this is the same thing as 4 to the power of 1/2 to the power of 3. And this is just the square root of 4. So the square root of 4 is how much? It's going to be equal to 2, and then 2 cubed is how much? 8. So we have 5x plus 1 is 8. Let's solve for x here. Okay, and let's double check that 7 over 5 is a solution. So I'm going to change x here to 7/5. So 5 times 7 over 5 plus 1 to the power of 2/3. Is this equal to 4? Well, what's 5 times 7 over 5? It's going to be 7, so this part is 7, plus 1 is how much? 8, so 8 to the power of 2/3. Well, this is going to be 8 to the power of 1/3 to the power of 2. What's the cube root of 8? 2. And so the left-hand side becomes 2 squared, and that's equal to 4. So we're good. How do we get rid of the 1/2 here? Let's go ahead and raise both sides of the equation to the power of 2. So that's going to give us 45 minus 9x to the power of 1/2. And then this one gets squared. So that means the right-hand side is going to be how much? 45 minus 9x. And then how do we get rid of the parentheses here? So that's going to be x minus 5 times x minus 5. So it's going to be x squared minus 10x plus 25 is equal to 45 minus 9x. How do we solve this quadratic? Well, let's move everything to the same side. So add 9x to both sides, and then subtract 45 from both sides. And then I'm going to try to factor this, and it does indeed factor as x minus 5 times x plus 4. So either this is 0 or this is 0. So x minus 5 equals 0. That gives x equals 5. X plus 4 equals 0 gives x is equal to negative 4. But let's go back and double check that 5 and negative 4 are indeed solutions. So if I change x to 5, what am I going to get for this equation? 5 minus 5 equals 45 minus 9 times 5 to the power of 1/2. So this side is 0. This is 0 as well. To the power of 1/2 is 0. So yeah, 5 is good. How about negative 4? So negative 4 minus 5, let's double check if that's equal to 45 minus 9 times negative 4 to the power of 1/2. So this is negative 9. And then 45, this becomes plus 36. 45 plus 36 to the power of 1/2. So this is 81. What's the square root of 81? Square root of 81 is 9. So no, this is not a solution. So our only solution here is x equals 5. How do we get this by itself? Let's subtract 3 from both sides of the equation. And how do we get rid of the 1/2 here? We're going to square both sides of the equation. So this gives us x minus 7 squared. So x minus 7 times x minus 7, that's x squared minus 14x plus 49 is equal to x minus 5. Let's subtract x from both sides, and then add 5. And how do we factor this? So we need two numbers that add to negative 15 and multiply to 54. So negative 6, negative 9. So when this is 0, x minus 6 equals 0. X is how much? 6. X is how much? 9. Okay, so let's plug these back in. So 6 minus 4, is that going to be equal to 6 minus 5 to the power of 1/2 plus 3? So this side's 2. This is how much? 1, and then 1 to the power of 1/2. So the square root of 1 is just 1 plus 3. Well, no, this isn't true. So 6, it's not a solution. How about 9? So let's double check. 9 minus 5 to the power of 1/2 plus 3. What's 9 minus 4? 5. So this becomes 4. What's the square root of 4? 2. Okay, so this is good. So x equals 9 is our only solution. To get rid of the cube roots, raise both sides of the equation to the power of 3. So this is going to become 2 cubed, and then the cube root goes away, so it becomes times 3x plus 5. And the cube root goes away here as well. 2 cubed is how much? 8. Okay. How do we get rid of the parentheses here? So 24x plus 40, 63x plus 1. Let's subtract 24x on both sides of the equation. So how many x are we going to get? 39x, and then subtract 1 from both sides. So x is equal to 1, but let's double check that 1 actually works. 3 times 1 plus 5, cube root of 63 times 1 plus 1. Okay, so this is going to be 8. So cube root of 8 is how much? 2. So 2 times 2, is that going to be equal to the cube root of 64, which is 4? Is this true? Yes. So x equals 1 is your answer.